The world-famous hi-fi and high-end company Marantz came into being thanks to Sol Bernard Marantz, who was born on the 11th of July 1911 in Brooklyn, New York, USA. The future creator of Marantz was born in a family of Jewish immigrants from Poland. The family lived in difficult financial conditions, so the young man even had to drop out of school and start working as a delivery boy in one of the firms in New York. From a young age, Sol began to show interest in technology and radio equipment, but his main passion was art and music. He even received an art education, attending courses at the Pratt Institute in Brooklyn. After his studies, Marantz became a highly successful graphic artist and began working with major companies including Hans and General Electric. The combination of technical knowledge and artistic talent resulted in Marantz products being characterized by interesting, fresh designs even in the early stages of the company's existence. In addition to his art education, one of Sol's great passions was guitar. He took lessons and was familiar with the Spanish guitarist Andrés Segovia. During World War II, Marantz served in the Navy, and during his time in the service he was able to take electronics courses. This, as you can guess, greatly influenced Sol's future. Sol Marantz began assembling his first component after the war. In 1948, Sol and his wife Jean, who was good at maths, started working on a tube mono preamplifier called audio consolette. During those years, the family lived in the New York City suburb of Kew Gardens. There Marantz met the electronic engineer Sidney Smith, who seriously helped to improve the product. The prototype of the audio consolette preamplifier was a universal tube system using dual 12AX7 and 12AU7 triodes. The model had a separate remote power supply and over 30 different correction circuits for record playback. It also featured a tone compensation system to boost bass at low volume levels. In 1952, Sol presented the prototype to his friend Mike Plum, a salesman at Harvey Radio in Manhattan, who helped negotiate a sale on the condition that Marantz would make 100 copies of the preamplifier. The deal was a good one. The audio consolette was in high demand. Sales went so well that the model was later revised for mass production. The company Marantz was founded by Sol in 1953. The chief engineer became the mentioned Sidney Smith. In the same year, a small factory was opened, where mass production of the audio consolette model began. In 1954, the Model 1 preamplifier was introduced, which was an improved version of the audio consolette that included an rear corrector for vinyl players, meeting the standard set by the Recording Industry Association of America. Like Marantz's first device, the new product quickly became a favorite among lovers of high-quality sound. The Model 1 was followed by the Model 2 tube mono amplifier designed by Sidney Smith. The circuit was based on the EL34 tube, providing 40 watts or 20 watts in triode mode. After a short time, the Model 3 crossover was released, and the Model 1 preamplifier and Model 2 amplifier were improved. The company began to grow rapidly. In 1958, Marantz and Smith moved production to new buildings, but still continued to operate in their hometown of New York. After the relocation, they introduced the Model 5 tube mono amplifier. At the same time, a special module was added to the lineup that allowed two Model 1 preamplifiers to be combined for stereo sound. At the end of 1958, mass production of the Model 7, the first stereo tube preamplifier with a unique three-stage phono section, began. The model became an iconic product for those times. The company sold almost 150,000 units. On the wave of success in 1959, the manufacturer introduced the Model 8 stereophonic preamplifier, combining two Model 5 mono amplifiers. The design was also very well received by the public. In 1960, Marantz launched the Model 9 tube monoblock with an increased output power of 70 watts. This amplifier was characterized by its minimalist design, and the front panel with arrow indicator became a feature of many Marantz amplifiers in the future. The Model 9 was highly regarded both in the 60s and today. It is still admired by vintage enthusiasts to this day. It is worth noting that Marantz even produced a special version of the Model 99120 for NASA, who used this precise unit in their work on the Apollo program. In 1961, Marantz and Smith were joined by engineer Richard Sequeira. The result of this new collaboration was the Model 10 FM tuner with oscilloscope, specially designed to listen to stereo programs transmitted on the new FM bands. In 1963, the SLT-12 record player joined the company's catalog. The model also turned out to be quite good, but a year later the company, too confident in its abilities, made a significant mistake. In '64, Marantz presented a new advanced version of FM tuner. The new device, called Model 10B, was characterized by a well-thought-out circuit and the highest sound quality, but the production of the model was so expensive that the company almost went bankrupt. Despite the high cost of the device at that time, which was $750, the company still lost almost $100 on each sale of the tuner. In just 1 year, Marantz was on the border of total bankruptcy. Joseph Tuszynski of Superscope Incorporated decided to save the company. Tuszynski bought Marantz and moved production to California. Already in 1965, the company's catalog included a new product, the Model 7T transistor preamplifier, followed a year later by the Model 15 transistor stereo amplifier in dual mono configuration. In 1967, the first Model 18 transistor receiver was released, equipped with an FM tuner, preamplifier section, power amplifier, and the proprietary gyroscope touch tuning wheel, which became an important feature of Marantz products. Superscope, the new owner of Marantz, realized that a large production facility in California required a large investment. Managers were looking for a way to maintain high quality but reduce costs. Thus, in 1966, Marantz audio equipment began to be assembled in Japan in cooperation with Standard Radio Corporation, which had previously produced radios and tape recorders. Following this change, Sol Marantz left his position as president of the company in 1968. The new Japanese era of Marantz began with a rapid expansion of the model range. In the early 70s, the company released several dozen new devices, including models of the famous 2200 series. In 1975, the mentioned Standard Radio Corp., the new main partner of Marantz, became part of the company, and this new large enterprise was named Marantz Japan Inc. In 1978, the Marantz company released its Model 2600 receiver, which became one of the most powerful units of the time, delivering 300 watts per channel at 8 ohms and 400 watts at 4 ohms. At the end of the decade, Marantz again faced change. Firstly, Superscope sold 50% of Marantz Japan and the rights to the Marantz trademarks to Dutch giant Philips. Secondly, Ken Ishiwata joined Marantz and dramatically influenced the company's development. Ishiwata, who had previously worked at Pioneer, took over as head of product modernization. Ken was a very experienced professional who had learnt about Marantz products at a young age. Ishiwata had a special warm feeling for Marantz, which enabled him to take production to an even higher level. In 1982, Marantz released its first CD player. However, it should be clarified here that the CD63 model was based on the legendary Philips CD100 player. This is quite understandable, as the companies were working together at the time. Ishiwata believed that Philips and Marantz CD players were the best in those days, as they used 4x oversampling technology, which allowed for an excellent soundstage. At least, that's what Ken Ishiwata thought. The CD63 was followed by the CD73 model based on Philips' CD303 with TDA 1540 chip. A little later, the unusual two-block model CD12 was released. It is rumored that at that time Ken Ishiwata had the honor of a conversation with Sol Marantz himself, who asked Ishiwata to do what he could for the CD format, just as Sol had done for vinyl records. Ken was no expert in digital technology, but according to his own words, he had learnt a lot from Philips engineers. Ishiwata's particular line of devices came about when the engineer decided to upgrade the CD45 model himself. Ishiwata improved the player to his personal taste and presented the updated device as CD45LE, which means limited edition. Ken sent several of his upgraded models to industry experts and the company's partners, labeled the player the world's most musical CD player. Ishiwata's signature sound appealed to both industry professionals and amateur audiophiles. Within the first 2 weeks, around 2,000 copies of the CD45LE were sold. In the following years, Marantz products with Ken Ishiwata's design modifications and customizations were labeled KI Signature or Ken Ishiwata's Signature model. This practice made Ishiwata famous all over the world. Together with Ken, the company has produced many products that have become hi-fi classics. However, it is important to emphasize here that Ishiwata's signature models were primarily for the European market. The engineer had a complicated relationship with the Japanese branch of Marantz. The KI signature models were not officially sold in Japan itself. In the 90s, Marantz reached its peak with the consolidation of facilities in various countries and the cooperation of Marantz offices under Philips. At that time, the company was heavily involved in home AV, and the first significant step was the THX-certified Marantz SM80 amplifier. In 1996 appeared the expertly acclaimed SR96 AV receiver, also THX certified. At the same time, the company introduced its first LCD projector VP8770 and plasma monitor PD4280. At the same time, the company was engaged in the MusicLink project, which resulted in the development of high-performance mini components. Also in the 90s, the company released a premium tube amplifier Project T1. In the second half of the decade, Marantz decided to launch a line of special devices that were replicas of the brand's classic audio components, including the Model 7T preamplifier, Model 9 monoblock and Model 8 stereo amplifier. As for Ken Ishiwata, he continued his unique project at that time, but relations with the company's management were getting bad. Ishiwata was a strong opponent of Marantz's move into the home theater business. Ken managed to keep the hi-fi division, which later turned out to be quite reasonable. At the same time, according to Ishiwata himself, he did not manage to keep Marantz loudspeaker production. One of the last models was the LD50 loudspeaker, which was in many ways a problematic product. As a result, Marantz almost completely abandoned the loudspeakers division. In the 2000s, the era of digital sound in high quality began, and Marantz was fully prepared for this period. The SA1 CD player was the new starting point. This was followed by a whole range of components from the new top-of-the-range reference series, which was designed on the same principles as the SA1. The company also launched multi-channel receivers, DVD players, and video projectors. In 2001, Marantz Japan bought a stake from Philips, and in 2002, together with Denon, the D&M Holdings Group was formed, which included other companies, such as, for example, Boston Acoustics. The holding was later renamed D+M Group. In 2008, Philips ended its nearly 30-year partnership with Marantz by selling the remaining shares to D+M Group. The relatively independent operation of the Denon and Marantz Group came to an end in 2017, when the holding company was taken over by the US group Sound United. As a result, the Marantz brand ended up in the same portfolio together with such well-known brands as Polk Audio and Definitive Technology. A few years later, Sound United itself was bought by the medical corporation Masimo. It's worth noting that Ken Ishiwata, who was a major influence on Marantz as we know the company, continued to work with the brand until 2019, when after ending his work with Marantz, Ishiwata died at the age of 72. Company founder Sol Marantz passed away back in 1997 at the age of 85. Today, the Marantz brand continues to be owned by Masimo Corporation of California. Despite the changes, the company has not stopped developing and launching new products. The Marantz brand produces premium amplifiers, players, receivers, cinema systems, and other equipment. The company's management emphasizes that it maintains the principles laid down by its founders. This applies both to the unique style of products and a thoughtful approach to circuit design. The main offices of Marantz are located in Carlsbad, California. There is also an important office located in Osaka, Japan. That brings the video to the end. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. Until the next video. Thank you.